Sonya and Sasha, for real.
Thank you for joining us on the Sonya and Sasha for Real show. You're on Live FM on BRIMBANK Live, and we have the most special guest who we kind of found in a bit of a different way, Sash, I think, once I explained this story to you. But we
There's
have
no different
from
way.
our home.
There's no different way at all. We're stalkers. That's what we are. We're stalkers. We'll find
Well,
you.
let's
We'll
just say it like it is, right?
That's right. We'll say it how it is.
I was trying to zhuzh it up a bit. Now you've done.
No. Let's
but,
tell
you know,
like,
you're correct. We stalk people.
Isn't our show called For Real?
It is called For Real, and
Right,
you
so
are
we're
right. I am
stalkers.
CIA level at stalking, I've got to tell you. So we've got
right.
this fantastic guest with us, and it's from our home. So this is part of our New York Minute segment that we have on a very regular basis on our Sonya and Sasha For Real show. But this one is really special. So Cornell Thomas, it runs an international positivity summit. Don't we need some of that right now? He is an international speaker. He's an entrepreneur. He is an author of several books, and he'll tell us about the latest one, which sounds very cool, and a business coach and a basketball coach. He's also...
What else is he? What else is he? He must have a resume that's coming out of the sky the way that you've got this going, Sonya. We are so excited to be able to meet him right now.
Yes, please welcome to the show, Cornell Thomas.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. I appreciate it, ladies. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming along.
All the way from Jersey.
New Jersey. Yes. See, people always do that accent, right? And that's like, Black people don't sound like that in New Jersey.
Okay. All right.
Do white people sound like that in New Jersey?
No one sounds like that in New Jersey.
Do you know what's...
Well, that was an Australian/Jersey accent.
Yeah, but it's all good.
Do you know what was just so interesting when we actually crossed the border? Like we literally just crossed it, got a train and went into Jersey one day, and we could not believe how different the accent was straight away.
Yeah.
From New York to Jersey.
We're different. Like we might be next to New York, and that's where the similarity stops. Outside of us all being human beings, New Jersey is a different vibe. Like it's just New York is so quick and so busy and so hustle bustle. Like you have that in some cities in New Jersey, but for the most part, like it's called the Garden State for a reason. Like you have city, you have beach, you have suburb, you have like a little bit of country. Like there's everything in this small state called New Jersey.
Oh, beautiful. So we've got this incredible guy on here.
Tell us all about you run.
Tell us all about
so interesting, the Positivity Summit.
Yeah,
it's international. We've got guests from all over the world. I listened to the last one. I took part in the last one as a listener, and it was so great. It was just, it made you feel so good. There's people that had no ego whatsoever, and they were just sharing their experiences and, giving us a bit of light in this sort of a fairly dark time that we're going through at the moment. So can you tell us about where the idea came from and all about the summit?
Yeah, thank you. So Sonya summed it up very well. The speakers that I bring to the Positivity Summit, my idea for it was I just want a bunch of people with no agenda sharing their stories. And in those stories, people will see the commonalities that we have amongst ourselves. Because if you watch TV, which I don't, but if you watch the news, you would think that we just have all differences and nothing that kind of bonds us. And the one thing that bonds us is adversity. If you've been on the earth for longer than, a year, you've been through some type of adverse situation. So when I bring speakers in, I'm very fascinated with people's stories. So I know that the speakers that I bring in at some point in time, our stories are going to all line up. At some point, we went through this, we did this to get through it. We might still be going through something, but this is how we were able to kind of push past it a little bit. So the Positivity Summit was created. I was at a Tony Robbins event in 2015. A friend of mine gifted me a ticket. And this is when I was only like 2 years into speaking. And I was at the event. I'm like, oh, the event's cool. Like, it's cool. Like, there's a lot of people. There's like a lot of good energy. But the price tag and just like, it was more like, pump up, like rah-rah, like motivation event, where people are dancing around and chest bumping and like listening to bad techno music. And I was like, well, I love the energy of the event. The energy is dope and Tony's a good guy. I said, but I want to run an event where it's not just for people that have a lot of money. I want to run an event where I have a millionaire sitting next to someone that doesn't have $100 in their pocket. I want to run something affordable where we're not just having me speak like, and I'm not saying Tony does, but like not just hearing my voice the whole entire time. I want people from all over the world to share their stories. because my whole thing, I think one of the reasons that I was put on this earth is to connect people and to let people realize like we all have purpose. So that's why that's how the positivity summit started. And my first one was in New Jersey. We had like 35 people. And then we did one in New York, we did one in LA, one in England, and then we've done a virtual one that Sonya went to recently. And then our next one is this month, October 23rd and 24th. We're doing another virtual one. But being able to travel all these different places and see all these unique, just super amazing people, it fills me up. It blows my mind that I'm part of this. And, you know, I've created something where people are coming together and just not worried about who you voted for or any of the political nonsense. People are just showing up, being themselves with no ego and just loving one another.
The thing that I like what you said was two things that it just sparked my mind. Was one, there's no agenda, because a lot of the time when we go to these seminars, there's like, I'm going to tell you about me, so then you'll buy my product, or then you'll join my seminar, and then you'll buy my book, and blah 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 blah. So they're almost like, when you've heard 5 speakers, you've come out and you need to spend another 10 grand to even learn the next stage. So the fact that you're even saying that makes it feel like, I know that I'm going to come to your positivity summit, I'm going to get something out of that. And then whether I choose to go forward or do something else is a completely different agenda. And the other thing was the fact that you're here to connect people. That's one of the things that Sonya and I it's such an important core value to who we are, because we just go around the world connecting people all the time. So when you're able to connect people with great stories, that's just awesome.
Yeah. And for me, and again, I don't knock how speakers do their thing. I don't sell from stage because it takes away from the message. Right. So like, if I'm telling you this story about something that I went through, and at the end of the story, and then I use these 5 steps for my coaching program that you can buy for $99.99. You're like, bro, is any of this story even real? Like, did you just say that story to set me up for this coaching program? So I tell my speakers specifically, if you want to be part of this, you can't sell from stage. Now, if it's a live event, you can set up a booth in the back, do your thing. I will tell people to go there, but I want you to share you. I don't want you to share what you do.
Yeah. So you said that, you know, when you're standing on stage and you say something that I've been through, you have actually been through something that was quite terrible at the time. I'm sure you would have really struggled with that, but you've managed to turn it into something great. Can you tell us about what happened when you were just about to go and live probably what you would have called your dream at the time in playing professional basketball in Europe? Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, I'd have to go back a little bit, because it's very important when I tell that story, it's very important for people to realize the context of it. So who I am is centered around who my mom was and who she is now. So there's no me at all without my mom. Tina Thomas, I always say Tina Thomas the Great. Like, she's the one that helped implant this like craziness in my mind that I can get through anything, right? That I can push through things. So my father passed when I was 4 years old. He passed from cancer. He's a police officer in Passaic, New Jersey, where we're from. And when he passed away, he left my mom with the task of raising 5 kids on her own with like no money.
Wow.
So I watched my mom from 4 up until, 18, work 3 jobs, take care of 5 kids, take us from the inner city to a better area just so we can get an education, and never put her head in her hands and give up. Never put her head in her hands and say, I can't do this. My mom I said, Mom, you're this 5'2" and a quarter lioness. You're stronger than any man or woman I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
So when not having a father, I didn't have anyone put a basketball in my hand and say, hey, this is what you should do. You might be pretty tall or whatever. It wasn't until I was 16 years old that I discovered basketball. I had a cousin in Virginia. His name was Carlos Taylor, and he enlisted in the Army. I had no idea that he played sports. I had no idea that he was this big time athlete. But one day I was sitting on his bed and I looked under his bed and he had all these newspaper articles, hundreds. And I saw a picture of him. And before that time, I didn't really play organized sports. So I didn't know they put kids in the newspaper, for basketball or sports or whatever. And here's my cousin like dunking a basketball. So I started freaking out. Like 16 is a like awkward age for dudes, like for, guys and girls. But for me, I was at a stage where I didn't have any identity up until that point. People just knew me as, oh, that's so-and-so's little brother. Like there was nothing that I had a stamp on. You know, like some kids are like, oh, this kid's like super funny, or this kid's like good at sports, or this kid's a great dancer. I didn't have that. So when I saw my cousin in the newspaper, I said to myself, well, maybe this can be the thing that I do where people will know me for something, because I felt kind of not invisible. Like I had friends and stuff, but I felt like I didn't have, like no one knew me for anything. And I wanted to change that. So this is around the time where MC Hammer, the rapper, was out. So I had like, you know, one of those high top haircuts.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Haircuts.
And the balloon pants.
I had like I had two pair of balloon pants.
Oh, you were a rich kid then. 2 pairs.
Oh no.
Full commitment.
Oh no. It was commitment. And like my mustache barely grew in. So I was struggling. I was in a lot of friend zones. Like girls were not feeling me at that time at all. So my mom drove us back home, and I found this little basketball in our basement. And I said, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play basketball. So I grabbed the basketball. I walked 3 miles to the nearest court. I went to the hoop. I threw the ball up. The ball went over the hoop and rolled down the hill. And I did that for about 2 more hours. And I realized that I suck at basketball. Like I'm terrible. Like it's not enough to just be tall and black. Like you gotta actually be able to like play basketball. So while I was sitting there, this like little 5'8" Filipino guy came walking to the court, and he said, my name is Ray. Do you want me to show you how to shoot a basketball? And when I tell people that story, and when I go to schools or companies, whatever, people laugh at the visual of this 5'8" Filipino guy showing this 6'4.5", 6'5" black dude like how to shoot a basketball.
Yeah, because you're not 5'2" like Tina Thomas. You're not 5'2" like Tina Thomas the Great. You're like the double what mum is.
Yeah. I'm 10'4". Like I'm a tall guy. Like I got height. And so what Ray did when he left after showing me how to shoot a basketball, I was still very bad. But he planted this seed in my head that if I work at this, I can get better. And that changed the course of my life. Like that moment with him, I only saw him 3 times in my life. That moment changed the course of my life because I had the work ethic, because my mom, you know, she was the epitome of what work ethic is. So I decided to dedicate myself to basketball. And it wasn't just to, you know, be famous or get a girl. My dedication now was play professional basketball so my mom never has to work again. You know, I was sick of seeing her struggle. So I'm like, I'm gonna make it for her. You know, I'm gonna make it like no matter what, you know, so my mom could, you know, sit down and relax. And, you know, my junior year of high school, I was in 11th grade, you know, I got cut from the main team. My senior year, I barely played on the main team. And then after high school, my mom sat me down and she said, baby boy, she goes, I can't afford to send you to college. And that was the first time in my life that I've heard my mom say can't, like the first time. So when she said that, it like hit me harder than anything. Cause I'm like, if my mom is saying she can't, we're in a dire situation. Like this isn't good. And so I said, Mom, I'm going to take 2 years off from high school. I'm going to work 2 jobs. I'm going to go to a 2-year school, which is cheaper. And then I'll get a scholarship from that school to play at a 4-year school. And my mom looked at me and she said, okay. She said, all right, do it. And that's what I did. I took like a year and a half off. I worked 2 jobs. I got enough money to pay for a junior college. We call in the States a junior college, a 2-year college. And by my sophomore year, after 4 years of being, you know, horrible, it finally clicked. And when people saw me play my sophomore year, they're like, what in the hell happened? Like you were cut from the varsity team. I said, well, I put 6-7 hours a day into basketball. Like I didn't go to junior prom or senior prom. Like I watched limousines drive past the court while I was shooting outside to go to prom. So I was willing to sacrifice what I like in order to get what I love. And a lot of people aren't. A lot of people talk, you know, they talk about, oh, I'll do this for this. No, you won't. Like you're not really about the life that you're saying that you want. Because if you were, you'd realize you have to put that in front of so many things to even be semi-proficient at what you want in life. So I started just working out, training. I got a full scholarship to play in North Dakota, which I was just, I'd never been to North Dakota before in my life. We never had the means to travel. And so played in North Dakota, came back home. I started working out with NBA guys and guys I saw on TV. And here I am, like 7 years removed from getting cut from the varsity team. And I'm sitting there and my agent emails me, and this is back in the days when we had like AOL. So like to read an email takes like 9 days because it was so slow. We had like dial up internet, right? So like every line would come out like tick, 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 and then 4 hours later. And so my agent emails me and says, Cornell, you got a contract to play in Lisbon, Portugal, in their top division. But you have to go in 2 weeks. So I'm 7 years removed from like playing basketball, starting to play basketball. I have a contract to play professional basketball. I cannot make this up. I went downstairs. I told my mom I got a contract to play professional basketball. My mom looked me dead in my face and she goes, "That's great, baby. What do you want for dinner?" And I was like, I don't think you understand, Mom, what I just said. Like, I got a contract to play professional basketball. And later on, I realized that this woman believed in me so much. In her mind, she was like, of course you got a contract to play professional basketball. Yeah. Like, what else would happen? You know, like, that's how much belief. Like, when I talk about it, I get choked up because the faith that she had in me, she believed in me more than I believed in myself at that time. And I always tell people, if anybody believes in you more than you believe in yourself, it's going to be hard for your dream to happen. Like, you got to be your biggest cheerleader. Like, you have to believe in yourself more than anybody. And like, now I believe in myself even more than my mom believes in me, which is saying a lot. So I'm a week away from going to, you know, fulfilling this dream that I thought I was supposed to fulfill. I thought this was my purpose, right? Be a basketball player. And I was out with some friends just shooting around, and we started playing 3-on-3, and I go to the basket and I hear a pop, fall on the ground. My friends come running over. They go to help me up. I try to put weight on my right foot, and I can't put any weight on my right foot. And so I get myself to the hospital. I drag my foot up to the emergency room, and I'm not calling my mom, because if I call my mom, that means whatever has just happened is real. So I'm trying my best not to call my mom. I finally call my mom. We were like 40 minutes away from the hospital. She got there in 10. I don't know who she killed on the way over there, but my mom got there in 10 minutes. And the doctor said, Cornell, I'm sorry, but you ruptured your Achilles tendon. And so at that time in 2002, that's a year injury, right? Yeah. So that happened on a Sunday. I was supposed to leave that next Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to this day, I can't remember. Thursday morning, they wheeled me in for surgery. Thursday afternoon, they wheeled me out with a hard cast from the middle of my thigh to the end of my foot. And then on Friday morning, my mom's kissing me on my forehead, and I'm watching her walk to one of the 3 jobs I told her she'd never have to work again. And that, to that date, was the hardest. It was the hardest moment of my life, because I felt like I let this woman down. Like, all this woman, like, her only dream and purpose in life was making sure that we were raised the right way. And I couldn't get that done. And so I'm going through, you know, I'm in my room by myself. There's no one in the house. And I'm going through all these 5 stages, right? Like, they talk about when you get these 5 stages, like, there's some monumental change that you have to do, right? And there's anger, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I'm going through all those 5 stages almost at once. And I'm in that 4th stage of depression where I'm like, cursing the heavens, you know, like, God, like, why would you? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm nice to people. Like, all I want to do is help this woman not struggle. And this is what happens. And I started to think about my mom. I started thinking about how we grew up, and how sometimes we come home, the lights would be cut off because we couldn't pay the bill. And my mom would walk in the house, literally not break a stride, and just start lighting candles and handing out flashlights. Or we wouldn't have hot water, and my mom would take the cold water, boil it, put it in the bathtub, mix it, and we take baths. Like, this woman was about solutions and not problems. And here I am about the problem. And if you spend all your time on the problem, you have no more time left for the solution. So I started saying, like, okay, well, what's next? Because there's 2 things you can do when shit hits the fan, right? Like, you can be a why me person, or you can be a what now person. And there's a lot of why me people all over the earth, right? There are a lot of why, we see it. A lot of people are just, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why? Instead of saying, no, well, what now? Because when adversity happens, it's already in the past as soon as it happens. The words I'm saying, they're already in the past. The beginning of this interview is already in the past. As soon as you get to that point and pass it, it's there. It's in your rear view. So now the only thing you can do is look forward. I mean, you can look back and reflect, but what is that going to do in terms of you moving forward? So I called my best friend up, my buddy Kevin, I said, hey man, pick me up on Monday morning. We're going to the gym. And he sounded like I died, because the people that were close to me, my inner circle, he was like, Cornell, what are we going to do? I said, just pick me up. And for the next 6 months, I shot from a chair. Now, that did nothing for my basketball game, but that did everything for my mindset, right? That did everything for me mentally, for me to get out of my room and move. And when people are going through stuff, I tell them, are you on your couch? And they're like, well, yeah, I've been on my couch for 3 days. I'm like, well, that's the problem. Get up, go for a walk, get out your freaking house. Like, you got to move, right? I know people talk about stillness, and it's true. There's times you need to be still. But when stuff hits the fan, there's some times where you just have to get up and just walk. Get up and just be outside. Get up and do
I love
something.
this. I don't even want to interrupt you, but we have to go to a break. Cornell, please stick around, because we are so invested in this. We're like locked in. Sasha and I are going, all right, we've got to go for a break, but we don't want to stop him because it's really good. So just please stick around. Will you tell us the rest of this after the break? And then we want to talk about the Positivity Summit and who you've got. You've got some fascinating people who'll be.
We'll see you back in a minute.
Welcome back to the Sonya and Sasha For Real show, BRIMBANK Live and Live FM. We have our big friend of the show now, we'd have to say, Cornell Thomas, all the way from New Jersey. And he's been telling us about his Positivity Summit, and the reason why this all began years and years ago was a what you describe on your website as being a career-ending injury that happened. And then you came back from that, and all of a sudden you've discovered that you had to find something else to focus on. Your purpose had to be something different. And so you've created this amazing event. And you do speaking all over the world. You speak with university students and secondary school students. You do business coaching. Like, you've turned this event that, you know, would have taken a lot of people down into a lifetime of helping people and making real change in the world. So a little bit more about the Positivity Summit, please. Can you tell us about a couple of the guests really stood out to me? One was a lady called Brie Leslie. Can you tell us a little bit about her? She'll be speaking at the summit on the 23rd and 24th of October.
Yeah, Brie is amazing. She has a Fight Like a Girl movement. So every speaker that is speaking at the summit has started a movement or is a major part of a movement. So Brie, I don't want to tell her whole entire story because it's just, it's amazing, but she's a survivor of an attack. And then she started this Fight Like a Girl movement to empower women. And she's a beast. Like, when I first saw her like post, I was like, okay, this is someone that I have to, at some point in time, I have to have her at one of the events, because, you know, I have a daughter, you know, and I love for my daughter to see like positive, strong, you know, women out there in the world. So Brie's phenomenal.
And then the second person is that I thought was just stood out straight away, and that's because of my friend here, Sasha, who's obsessed with 50 Cent. 50, June Archer. So he's an actor, and he used to have a record label, but he he's interviewed basically the entire cast of Power Book 2. Which is the sequel spin-off from Power, would you say? So I was looking at interviews with 50 Cent and Mary J. Blige and like all of these incredible people. So tell us about June.
Yeah, June was actually the first speaker at our very first Positivity Summit.
Oh, wow.
So me and June go back away. June is just a great dude. He was in the entertainment industry. He had his own band as an R&B singer, and then eventually, you know, started producing records. And now he's working with the Power team as an interviewer, but he's a speaker, an author, just really dynamic, diverse human being, can do a little bit of everything. So now he's, this 50 Cent has a show called This Is 50, and June is the main host on that show. So he interviews all the cast, different music acts, and you know, people are going to be blown away by June. He's actually our first speaker on the October 23rd, the day of the October 23rd Positivity Summit.
So how do we actually get tickets to this event? How do we get along? Because I think I need to be there. Are we going, Sonya?
Yeah, I think you should be there.
Yeah, in fact, Cornell has been very generously given us a ticket to give away. So you need to like the posts that that are on our Instagram right now, and we're going to choose a very lucky person to attend the summit. And I was there. It's crazy o'clock in the morning for us to listen to you over here with the Positivity Summit, but I actually put my headphones in and was listening as I was, getting
Falling
some
asleep.
rest at the same time. Yeah, falling asleep. I did. I fell asleep, and in the morning I was just so positive. I don't know what happened overnight. I had all of this stuff in my head.
If you go to our website, if you go to cornell-thomas.com, right on the front page, you can get tickets. This one is going to be recorded and sent to everybody that's in attendance. So if you are calling in, if you're checking in from Australia or Japan or one of these far off places where the time doesn't work, you'll be able to go back and go through the whole entire summit. So I'm super excited. And Sasha, I think we have to have you on here now. We have to have you as part of the
Well,
summit.
now that I know that you've got Instagram and I can start to follow you on Instagram, I love that. Right. I absolutely love. Now, you've actually even done a TED Talk.
Yeah.
How did you get the TED Talk?
Well, it's funny because this is a lesson in, let your ego go to the side a little bit. So like 4 years ago, I put in for a TED Talk, and I'm like, I'm speaking. I just started. I think it was like I just started speaking in England, and I was doing this professionally. So I'm like, I'll do a TED Talk. It's like half hour, 45 minutes away from my house, and I put in my information and didn't hear back. So I'm like, well, screw TED Talks, like whatever. Like I don't need to do a TED Talk. Like I'm doing this professionally anyway. And so a year later, and I put in one more thing and nothing, and I'm like, I'm done with these. This is, I don't care, right? I'm already doing what I love doing. I don't need
your TED Talk. I don't need you.
I don't need no TED Talk. So about 2 years ago, I saw one, and it was like 45 minutes away, and it's in New Jersey. And I'm like, man, I was like, all right, I'll do it one more time. So I put my ego aside and put it in, and I heard back from the lady, and she goes, we love your resume, blah, 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 blah. We love seeing your videos. And then I didn't hear from her for like 2 months. And the talk was on March, and it was like the second week of February. And I still haven't heard back from her. And I just messaged her. I was like, hey, am I speaking in 3 weeks? And she goes, oh yeah, you're in. I was like, okay. So then I did my TED Talk. And what people don't understand, the lead up before the TED Talk was crazy. I was in the hospital the day before that talk. Like no one knew. Like, and again, I haven't really shared the story except for to anybody. But that week, I had the Positivity Summit that weekend. So that TED Talk was on a Tuesday. I was in the hospital on a Monday. Did the TED Talk on Tuesday, and then that Wednesday, a very, very close friend of mine at the time tried to take his life. So that was my week, right? And so and then I had the Positivity Summit that same weekend. So when I went to do my talk or whatever it was, I just talked about the week, like what happened. So it was just a roller coaster of emotion. Like if you look at the TED Talk, I have this oversized jacket on, and I have, these clothes that I had at the bottom of my closet because 4 days before there's this major snowstorm, and it knocked out all the power in my town, and all my clothes were in the dry cleaners. So all this stuff happened, like literally the 10 days. It was just absolutely crazy. And then I did the TED Talk, and when I was in the hospital, I told the doctor, I said, if I want to run a marathon tomorrow, could I? And he goes, yeah. I was like, cool. Because I told everybody, I was like, my close family, I said, I'll die on that stage. I don't care. Like I'm gonna do that TED Talk. I don't care what happens. Like I'm gonna do it. And so I went out there and did it, and that was the story.
It's so good, and that's often where the real stuff comes from, like the really good, juicy stuff comes from when we just be vulnerable and just let it out. I was watching a talk by Brene Brown the other day, and she said one of her major talks in her life was just getting up on stage, and she said, preaches vulnerability. And she said, how I go, and it was one of the most popular talks that she's ever done. Speaking of superstar speakers, this is what's on your website, Mr. Cornell Thomas. The renowned Tony Robbins said of you, Cornell Thomas is an up-and-coming thought leader that will inspire you to not only do more, but be more. That is massive, our friend. What happened? How did this occur?
Yeah, that's a crazy story. We don't have a crazy amount of time to say it, but I will do it very quick. When I went to that event in 2015, that I went to the event because someone said that Tony Robbins was the best speaker in the world, and I'm like ultra competitive. So I'm like, I don't care who this guy is. He's not a better speaker than I am. Like literally, that was my mind.
Bring it on. Yeah.
And so I went to the event, and I messaged him afterwards. I said, hey, because he was following me on Twitter, because I would send him a quote every day, and he started retweeting my quotes every couple weeks. He'd retweet a quote.
You're a stalker like us.
Yeah, well, I didn't stalk him. I just sent him a quote.
Yeah.
You're on a
Same.
different level. You're on a
Yeah,
different
we
level.
are. It's on our resume.
Yeah, so he messaged me. I messaged him and I said, hey, I went to your event, and I told him why I went to his event. I was being honest. I said, but I got a lot more out of it. I would love for you to write the foreword to my next book. And he goes, Cornell, it'd be my pleasure. And it took a year for all this stuff to transpire. Like that's another day I will tell you that story, but it took a year for all that to transpire. But then he ended up writing that beautiful endorsement, and that was that.
Wow.
What a
Unbelievable.
pleasure it has
Well,
been
you've just
to
made
meet
some
you.
Yeah, you've made some incredible things happen in the world, and we can't wait to get to the Positivity Summit 23rd and 24th of October, which means in Australian time that will be one day earlier.
Day after.
Yes.
Earlier.
One day earlier. And so
SACHA.
all of the information you can get on cornell-thomas.com. And thank you so much for letting us have a ticket to give to one of our very special listeners. I'm sure that their world will be changed like ours has been. And thank you so much for joining us today. We love what you're putting out into the world. It's made us feel more positive already. Cornell Thomas.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. I appreciate it.
You're brilliant. Thank you for listening to the Sonya and Sasha For Real show. You're on BRIMBANK Live on Live FM.
Sonya and Sasha For Real.